everyone, welcome back to your channel Biology with Dr. Sudha. I am here with a new topic, sexual reproduction. In our previous videos we have understood about asexual reproduction and today we will understand about this sexual reproduction. We have understood that asexual reproduction is uniparental whereas sexual reproduction is biparental. Two parents are involved in sexual reproduction. One is male and another is female. The male parent will give rise to male gametes and female parent will give rise to female gametes, or single organism can also give rise to two types of gametes. These two types of gametes may act as male gamete and another will act as female gamete. So various possibilities are there. But in this sexual reproduction we will come across through various terms which we are required to know to start the next chapters in detail. Like in this video we will try to understand the term gametogenesis, gamete transfer is what, fertilization, embryogenesis and sexuality in organisms. What are the various terms used in case of plants and what are the various terms used in case of animals. So sexual reproduction, as you know, is the involvement of two parents. So what happens here? One parent is giving male gamete and another parent is giving female gamete, right? This is male gamete and this is female gamete, right? These gametes are formed and the formation of gametes is known as gametogenesis. As you know, in case of humans, the male gamete is known as sperms and the female gamete is known as egg or ovum, right? The formation of sperms is known as spermatogenesis. Formation of sperms is known as spermatogenesis and formation of egg or ovum is known as oogenesis, right? This is in case of human beings. But if I talk about plants, I am talking about the higher plants as it is the sexual reproduction. So you all know what is the sexual reproductive structure in case of plant, that is flower. And in flower the formation of male gamete, that is known as microsporogenesis and formation of female gamete is known as megasporogenesis. This chapter or this video is based on the little introductory outlay of the chapter. Details we are doing in the further chapters. So in plants, formation of male gamete is known as microsporogenesis and formation of female gamete is known as megasporogenesis. Oogenesis in case of human beings and spermatogenesis in case of human beings, male, right? Okay. Now this formation of gametes, the next step is transfer of gametes. As you all know, in most of the cases like sperms, male gamete is motile whereas female gamete is non-motile. So these gametes have to be transferred. Either you can say the male gamete has to travel towards the female gamete or both have to fuse. If I talk about the lower plants like bryophytes, there the male gamete is motile and it travels through the thin film of water and reaches to the female gametes, right? But in case of higher plants, the pollen grains, like that what I am talking about, microspores, pollen grains, they are transferred to the female gametes by the process of pollination. So in plants, gametes are transferred by the process of pollination, and in animals or in human beings, the male gametes is deposited by a specific process of copulation and it reaches towards the female gametes. So by pollination or in pollination in plants, and by the process of copulation, the process of depositing of male gametes in the female reproductive tract so that male gametes can reach to the female gamete. That process is known as copulation, right? So after the formation of gametes, our next step is transfer of gametes. Okay, when the male gamete has reached towards the female gamete, there will be fusion of these two gametes, and this fusion will give rise to zygote, right? And as you all know, these male gametes and female gametes are formed by meiosis, so they are having haploid number of chromosomes, and their diploid number is restored by the formation of zygote, and they will form 2M, that is diploid zygote. This zygote will be having species specific number of chromosomes, species specific. Its species specific diploid number is restored by the fusion, and this process of fusion of male gamete and female gamete is known as fertilization, right? This process of formation of zygote by the fusion of male and female gametes is known as fertilization. Now, this zygote will divide by mitosis division, and I have explained in previous video also that mitosis is a equational division and it will give rise to embryo, right? This process of formation of embryo from zygote is known as embryogenesis, right? This embryogenesis is, this embryo is formed, if I am talking about the human beings, the zygote is going through the various stages like morula, blastula, gastrula, and then embryo is formed. Gastrula, after formation of gastrula, organogenesis takes place, and then embryo is formed, and this embryo will give rise to complete organism, right? So this process of embryo formation from the zygote seems to be a, you can say ki a very simple step, but it's not so simple, requires various steps. So that we will do in the later cases. Now the events which are taking before fertilization, like fusion of gametes, formation of gametes, like this gamete transfer, all the events which are taking place before fertilization, these events are known as pre-fertilization, means before fertilization. And all the events after this fertilization, that is formation of embryo from the zygote, these events are known as post fertilization events, right? So events before fertilization are pre-fertilization events, and which are taking place after fertilization, these are known as post fertilization events, right? After that, embryogenesis, I have explained. Embryogenesis means formation of embryo, and that embryo after further developments will give rise to complete organism within a you can say ki fixed time period. In human beings, as you all know, it's a 9 months period, and after that we will come across through various terms, like if I am talking about sexuality in organism. So let us start with the sexuality in plants. There are few terms you must have heard. First of all, what is the reproductive structure in plants? You all know it is flower, right? Flower is having, like you must have make a diagram of flower in lower classes also, that there is a stigma, style, ovary, and this is resting on this thalamus part. There are little leaves, sepals. We are not concerned with these parts basically, these are the accessory parts. Here I am concerned with the reproductive parts, right? And stamen, this is filament, anther, together known as stamen. So like this, a plant is having flower and flower is bearing, these are its petals, right? So this structure we most of the time we come across. Like if I am talking about the female reproductive part, this part is female reproductive part, what is called as, this is stigma and this is style, this is ovary. Together these are known as what? Pistil. Together these are known as pistil. And this part is stamen, sorry, anther, and this part is filament, and together they are known as stamen, right? Stamen is the male reproductive part, also called androecium, and pistil is the female reproductive part, that is known as gynoecium. So what I want to tell you, that if a flower, like you can take the example of, for example, this diagram I have made of hibiscus, or you can say China rose. In the flowers of hibiscus or China rose, there are present both male and female parts in a single flower. So a flower having both the male and female reproductive parts, that is known as bisexual flower. Bisex, two sexes in one flower, then that flower is known as bisexual flower, right? So if there is only, I think I should rub this diagram. In a bisexual flower, if there are both male and female reproductive parts. But what about unisexual? This is hibiscus is bisexual flower. But some flower, they bear either male reproductive part or female reproductive part, means one sex is there, then it is known as unisexual flower, right? So unisexual flower either bear male or female parts. You can take the example of papaya here. And next term we come across is monoecious. Monoecious means both the reproductive parts are on the same plant. This term is used for plant, monoecious term is used for plant, and bisexual term is used for flower. So we can say the plant bearing bisexual flowers is known as monoecious plant. Monoecious means one. Only one plant is having both the sexes, then it is known as monoecious plant. And what about dioecious? Dioecious means unisexual flower. Means dioecious, the plant which is bearing unisexual flowers. Here I have given you the example of papaya tree. Papaya tree is having male reproductive, its flower is having a male reproductive part, then it is known as male tree, and if its flower is bearing female reproductive part, then it is known as female tree. Now there are two kinds of plants or two kinds of tree bearing male reproductive parts and female reproductive parts. So we can learn it from the di means two plants and mono means single body. So dioecious plants are bearing unisexual flowers and monoecious plants are bearing bisexual flowers, right? And one more term is written in front of you, that is monocarpic plants. As this is a chapter we are dealing with the sexual reproduction, and we have done in our previous video that in lifespan of one organism there are various phases of the life, like birth, then juvenile phase, then reproductive phase, and this is the reproductive phase in which organism is able to reproduce. And here we are talking about the sexual reproduction. So we are concerned with the means reproductive phase of the organism. So monocarpic plants, these monocarpic plants are those plants which reproduce only once in their lifetime. Monocarpic plants, they reproduce only once. They reproduce only once in their lifetime. These kinds of plants are known as monocarpic plants. You can say all the annual crops, or you can give the example of bamboo. Bamboo reproduces only once in 50 or 100 years. In 50 or 100 years. And there is one more example of that is Strobilanthus contiana that reproduces only once in 12 years. That reproduces once in 12 years. So you can take the example of annual crops like wheat, rice. They, after entering their reproductive phase and then aging and then all the stages of a lifespan that are completed in 1 year after the plant die and a new plant is getting started. So these kinds of plants, they are reproducing only once in their lifetime. They are known as monocarpic plants, right? So these are few terms that we come across in case of sexual reproduction in plants. Now let us see these conditions, what are they named in animals. Okay, in animals we come across the term hermaphrodite. If bisexual term is used in case of plants, then hermaphrodite term is used in case of animals. Means if organism is bearing both male and female reproductive part, animal, then it is known as a hermaphrodite. Here we can take the example of earthworm. The lower organism, they show hermaphroditism, right? So that is the bisexual term in plants is equivalent to hermaphrodite term in case of animals. Sexual dimorphism, if there is two dimorphism, two kinds of externally they are different. Sexually dimorphic means one is male and another is female, means there are two forms of organism which are differentiating them sexually. One is male and another is female. That condition is known as sexual dimorphism. Here you can give the example of human beings. There is one male and another is female and they are morphologically quite different. Then what are oviparous animals? Some of the animals, they produce eggs. Like if I am talking about all the females are producing egg, but in human beings the eggs is produced by ovulation, but female of humans, like a human female is giving birth to the baby. But if I am talking about the birds, the egg is you can say ki the baby is hatching out from the egg. So if a baby hatches out from the egg, that condition is known as oviparous. Those animals are known as oviparous animals, and if a female is giving birth to a baby, then it is known as viviparous condition. And what happens in case of, like if I am talking about the birds, why the bird's baby is hatching out of the egg? Egg is having the yolk for the nourishment, and a bird's egg is having sufficient yolk amount to give nourishment to the developing baby. So if there is no need to provide nourishment from outside, this egg give rise, the embryo is giving rise to a complete baby, and that baby hatches out from that egg. Means the egg which are having the sufficient amount of yolk to provide nourishment, these kinds of eggs are known as cleidoic eggs. And if the egg is very tiny or very small, that is not able to give the complete nourishment to the developing baby, then those kinds of organisms, they prefer to give birth to their baby so that baby can be taken care after birth. Like in human beings, the females are feeding their babies to give them the nourishment, right? And that baby is developing inside the mother's womb and getting nourishment till 9th month from the mother's placenta. But sometime you must have heard about frog. what happens in frog or some other animals, they you can say undergo development through various stages like larval stages. So what happens in that case is that their egg is not having sufficient amount of yolk. They are having just simple that amount of yolk that is able to give nourishment to their larval stages. You can say that larva is a very small stage of frog. This frog develops into the tadpole larva, and after that it changes into adult stage. So some organism, they are not having even that amount of nourishment to survive, for the survival of that baby. So those organisms, they will prefer to give birth, you can say to give birth to the baby through various stages, right. So that kind of condition is also we have seen. And if I am talking about fertilization, that means fusion of gamete, that can be external, that can be internal. Like in external, as I have given you the example of frog, from where we can understand that frog is laying its egg inside the water, and male gametes are also laid inside the water. So fertilization is taking place in water. What happens in water? Fertilization takes place. That is not inside the body of organism. So that kind of fertilization which takes place outside the body is known as external fertilization. But if I am talking about a human being, the fertilization is taking place inside the body. So that kind of fertilization which is taking inside the female body, then it is known as internal fertilization, right. So with this we have understood the various terms that we will come across through further chapters. So with this is all for today, and if you like my video, then please press the thumbs up, and if you are new to my channel, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel. With this, thank you.